Welcome once again to the Dynasty Pulse. I am bigz. I got Schultzy, Coach Retzlaff, and Grindberg with me. Chev is in the back, ruffling through drawers or something. I don't know what he's doing. He's on assignment. This is another show, baby, and we are here on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network and the Undroppables to do a Scott Fishbowl mock draft for the Scott Fishbowl 15 because it is the summer of fish. Producer.
We are here. We are here. Fantasy Sports.
And let's get this thing started. For those of you not in the know, the Scott Fishbowl 15 is a yearly fantasy tournament which kind of kicks off the fantasy year. It's brought to you by Fantasy Cares and Scott Fish himself. It's a big charity event, 4,000 to 5,000 players, live drafts happening all over the planet, including Barcelona, Lithuania, England, Sacramento, and it's just an incredible event to be a part of. I coordinated the NorCal Live event. We had our draft on last Saturday. Las Vegas kicked everything off on Saturday morning. We came in about an hour later. We're in round 17 in my division.
Absolutely, bigz. It's been, this is my third year in the Scott Fish Bowl. This has created a lot of opportunity for you and I. I mean, that's a reason why we're actually sitting here together. Was Scott Fish Bowl really brought us together for one. It brings like-minded people around. It brings a community. It brings a lot of great things towards charity. So the Scott Fish Bowl event is like no other, and it's one of the biggest tournaments out there, and it's free to enter. But a small donation is definitely, encouraged because, it's all going towards a great cause, Fantasy Cares, and the merch is incredible stuff as, you're showcasing it on your head there, bigz. And let's go, everybody. Let's get into this mock. We're going to get it started. But before we do that, Schultzy, I got a question for you. You're doing a live draft coming in right now. You're doing it, with, I think you and Coach are doing it together. Where are you guys headed next week? In 2 weeks, actually, right?
We are going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina
for the live drafts, and the live drafts are awesome. bigz was just, the mastermind behind 3 monster Scott Fishbowl drafts in NorCal. Tell us about that, bigz.
It was a pretty great event. We went to a bar called the Shady Lady Saloon Bar and Restaurant. They had pretty great food. The jambalaya croquettes are incredible. And fantastic drinks. Shout out to Vince. He was the main bartender, helped me get everything put together. We had 2 divisions drafting inside. We had a draft outside on the patio. That was my division. Auctions and raffles going on throughout. We would draft a few rounds and then pause it. Everybody run inside and we'd, auction off some things. Auctioned off a Jamar Chase autographed jersey that somebody donated after winning it in the poker tournament at the Expo last year. Frank Gore autographed full-size 49ers helmet. Elijah Mitchell jersey. Some great bottles of liquor. Charles Woodson's Intercept wine, a little gift package of that. A bunch of local places donated their wine tasting and restaurant gift certificates and comedy club passes and all that kind of stuff, yoga, etc. It was pretty fantastic, and just a great time for everybody involved. It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, what's going to be awesome is getting this mock draft started. So I'm going to pull up this screen right now, and we'll get it shared with everybody. And we'll get the draft started. How long do I have on the clock right now?
30 seconds, which is perfect.
Okay, so we'll do a 30-second clock for everybody. And as we get started, before I push the button, I got a question for Schultzy, because I mentioned you being, in the live draft. So you're simulating that environment, and 30 seconds and maybe not as slim as what you're going to get in the live draft, but it's going to make you feel like you're there. So just like some actual Scott Fishbowl leagues will run, the live draft is going to be a short clock, just like today. What draft position are you working from today, and how does this mock draft help you pressure test your build strategy when every pick is final, and you can't rely on trades to fix early missteps or positional runs.
So I'm picking at the 8 spot here, which is my actual draft slot for the live draft. This is going to be my first Scott Fishbowl mock, so I'm looking forward to see how the board falls. It's going to give you, I mean, you can never expect these mocks to be exactly what your team's going to look like, but you can kind of take away some ballpark ideas of like who might be available in what rounds and kind of build a strategy from there. I'm going to be honest. I had a great plan last year, I thought, and I fell flat on my face. So we're kind of playing for vibes a little bit more this time around, man. Like I thought I had it all figured out last year, and I ain't gonna do that bad this year. I already know that.
Yeah, I mean, the first year sometimes there's some learning curves, absolutely. Yeah, and bigz, I think you were going to mention something about that. How did you do last year?
Well, first of all, I was going to say if you go ahead and draft on your phone, you can drop that board down and big in the screen for the viewers. I didn't do so hot last year. I tried to. I went too hard on flyers, and it didn't.
Well,
didn't
that's
quite work
because
out.
you drafted hockey players. That's why you did that.
Yeah, I drafted only Philadelphia Flyers, and it didn't help me. No, I mean, I'm already liking the team that I have built so far. One of the things that one of the pieces of advice I want to throw out to everybody is with this format, the way that it's structured, it's a super flex. There are 2 super flex spots where quarterbacks can go in, and then 9 spots that are wide receiver, tight end, running back. So there are only 2 quarterback spots. But when you start getting into the quarterbacks who aren't going to be scoring as many points as some of the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, you can put those other positions into your super flex spot. So this flattens out the positional scarcity of a whole lot of places. And when you're down there in the the 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th rounds, look for players who are going to be productive. Avoid taking a flyer on a handcuff, maybe getting a job down the road. Don't take Brandon Ayuk, who isn't probably going to start until the middle of the season. Don't draft Chris Godwin. I had a guy in a mock earlier today who took both of those players within the first 7 or 8 rounds. You have to put points getters into your first 11 spots, regardless of the position, and then go ahead and save. I'm going to approach this. I had a plan going into my draft last Saturday, and it didn't work out. I had 3 guys targeted at the 110. None of them were available to me. I pivoted. I had another guy at the 203. He got taken at the 201. I had to pivot. So I'm going to see how close I can get with my, that's it. Got to pivot again. Didn't get any of the 4 guys that I wanted to get out of those top spots. So,
well, tell us about the 4 guys you're looking at, because I think our viewers are interested, because the first round is where, the money's made. And you don't want to make a mistake. I mean, one of these guys, if it's a misstep, a misclick, could really plummet your Scott Fishbowl team. So what 4 guys were you looking for in the first 8 picks here that went?
Especially in the back half, I was looking for one of Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, or Ashton Genty. And then at the 203, I wanted Travis Hunter. But this is not my division. So
and also not with me in the room.
Right. And I did get Malik Neighbors at the 203. So this was a little bit higher, but I have another plan in mind that I want to see how it goes. Again, I'm 17 rounds in, so whatever thoughts I had for real life stuff has to be out the window. I'm just kind of messing around and seeing how this one works out.
All right. Well, that leads me to my next question, and that's for you, bigz, because you just wrapped up your real Scott Fishbowl live draft. What trend stood out the most, and what advice would you give to folks who haven't drafted yet? Any positional run surprises or lesson learned that could help others be better prepared?
Well, the only thing that surprised me was how the tight end groups got put together. People would avoid tight ends until there was a small run on tight ends. And then the other thing was the number of people who were just focused on one position. So there were a lot of builds that started off the first 6 or 7 rounds at only running back or only wide receiver. That's also playing out in the mock drafts, but it did play out in the real drafts as well. And the other thing is that if you aren't drafting at the 1 or the 2, you're not getting Bijan or Jamar Chase. So it looks like they're in the 90-something% of all drafts are starting with Bijan at the 101 and Jamar Chase at the 102.
And why is that? I mean, Brock Bowers last year would have finished as, I think, one of the top 3 guys, or top 2 last year, essentially. Why are people veering off of that? Because, I haven't done a whole lot of research into this just yet. My draft is still a couple of weeks away, so I'm kind of just starting to get into the mocks at this stage. So it's interesting to hear what your perspective is from that angle.
I have no idea.
So my top 3 points projections are for Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and Travis Hunter.
Gotcha.
So I don't know why that's not the chalk 1, 2, 3.
Well, I do know that Mike Clay ran some projections, and I caught wind. He was high on the Bijan Robinson train, so I think that's part of the influence. For me, at the 101, I'm between Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. Looking at the receptions, I'll make my pick with Breece Hall here, so I'm doubling up Bijan and Breece Hall. Bijan last year, 61 receptions, 304 rushing attempts, yet 2.5 points per reception on Sleeper, and then 0.5 points per carry. With Gibbs had 52 receptions to the 61 Bijan had, and then Bijan had the 250 attempts. So the volume is there for Bijan Robinson, but you could tell yourself the story of you take away David Montgomery, Gibbs could break this entire setting. And of course, if Algier goes away or there's a wider gap, Bijan Robinson is the play. So based off of that, that's why I went with Bijan Robinson. I'm at this back end. I see the quarterbacks gradually going here in the Superflex format. Then I went to my receiver in Rashee Rice, 2.5 points per reception. I'm going to love Rashee Rice. I really decided to go him over Marvin Harrison Jr. in that instance. So looking across the board, shout out to Mad Dog. He has Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, JSN, and Ken Walker. He's got some balance on his team at the 105. Shout out to you, Mad Dog. And Schultzy, can you just break down what you've done with Travis Hunter, 108, Daniels, 2.5, Nico Collins, 3.5? Are you thinking running back here in the next 2 picks, or are you going to further position elsewhere?
No, I'm definitely going to go running back here, and I think the lesson I'm learning here is I need to hammer running back probably round 2 if I'm going to go Hunter in round 1. Here I am. And I'm trying to decide between Travion and Quinshon Judkins here. I'm going to go Quinshon because volume alone, I really think he's going to get 250 carries this year. And with this scoring, that's just going to be huge. But let's have the Travis Hunter conversation because
let's have the Travion Henderson conversation because you just came off.
Let's have the Lan Larison conversation.
Flag planning Travion Henderson, and I see a high volume opportunity here. So back me off of your your Josh McDaniels call on the last show because you had me so convinced that Travion Henderson was just solidifying what I saw in him as my, I had him as my number 2 guy headed into the draft, and he ended up being my number 3 afterwards. But tell us a little bit about that because obviously Judkins, you mentioned the volume there, but you don't see that volume happening for Travion this year.
It is a good point, and there's a world here where I'm going to get them both, but I just think if we're gonna emphasize volume in this scoring format as much as we will, I think I like the surefire thing that we know Quinshon's going to get all that early down work, and he's just going to get loaded with carries. Yeah, of course, bigz just sniped me there.
Well, I wanted Judkins, but you took him, so.
Oh, that's fair. So yeah, it is an interesting conversation between the two.
Stop.
And now you got me questioning myself, right? So, but yeah, I for Henderson, man, we just talked about on the other show, the Josh McDaniels offense has absolutely smashed running backs in the passing game, and I love Travion's explosiveness. Dudes like Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead, James White have all pretty much feasted in that role, and none of them are even as close as talented as Travion. So I do love him. So, it is what it is.
So just to clarify, Schultzy and bigz, you were both Judkins over Henderson. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
So the theme of this year's Scott Fishbowl is volume is king. And my first 4 picks, I went wide receiver, and all of those wide receivers, it just kind of so happened that 3 of them are second year and 1 of them is a rookie. But you had Malik Neighbors, who led the world in targets last year, targets per game. And then Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey, both of them were huge target getters. Teteroa McMillan, I think, is going to be another 120 to 150 target guy in that Carolina offense. I think he's going to hit the ground running and not miss a beat. He's not going to need rookie ramp-up time. And then Travion Henderson, I think, he's going to have a lesser volume than Quinshawn, but I think that what he's going to be able to do on a points per touch basis, it puts him right in that echelon. So if I'm going towards who I think is going to get the most carries, I'm leaning Quinshawn. If he's off the board, then Travion is an easy pick after.
I think in any normal format, I'm team Travion here. But yeah, it was the volume and the carries bonus that had me leaning Quinshawn there.
All right, let's see Mike getting aggressive, and I'm glad he didn't take the guy I had. I've got here Kaleb Johnson, and he went double up. Mike, you went and doubled up with Sam Laporta. I'm going volume is king. I believe in Kaleb Johnson over Quinshawn Judkins in 2025. So I like what I got pick-wise versus the field versus what you guys had earlier with QJ, Travion Henderson. I really like Kaleb Johnson. Mike, explain what you had going on with Laporta and Bowers. Big advantage there.
Well, I just don't see anything going. Like, I see just such a crazy run of running backs. I just see, if I'm looking at where Laporta could potentially end up, he's finishing ahead of all these guys that are going down at this stage. If some, I saw his last half of 2025 more, indicative of where he probably stands long term. And I'm seeing that as an opportunity here to take advantage of a fading asset that really isn't fading all that much. I think he's capped off. I think we can't expect him to be the tight end 1 overall, but I see him being a top 5 tight end pretty, religiously here. And he's got some upside there. And I don't see a whole lot of advantages anywhere else. So I'm taking it where it is, and I'm going bold here because that's what you got to kind of do in the Scott Fishbowl in a big tournament like this. And I'm learning where things are falling at this stage. This is one of my first mocks, so I'm really getting some information on where maybe I need to veer off of moving forward and be a little bit more heavy on the running back situation headed into the first couple rounds.
I had just tapped the Q button for Kaleb Johnson, and as soon as I did that, you took him.
Oh, dude, that feels great. So you were hoping that he would have fallen back to you into your range. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Now,
and
looking at your
I got him in real life too.
So looking at your team, bigz, you're next to Duarte, who you guys are flipped of each other because Duarte has 4 running backs in 5 rounds and a receiver. You have 4 receivers and a running back. So he's gone Janty, Achan, who I was hoping Achan would fall back to me. So great thinking there. Omarion Hampton, RJ Harvey. T. Higgins is a lone receiver. For you have Henderson. You got Neighbors, BDJ, McConkey, Tet McMillan. Shout out to last year and now this year with Tet McMillan. So you were hoping, are there any other appealing running backs in this range, or do you think you're going to have to push down the board further?
Well, the ADP in the sleeper app really kind of muddles the waters because it looked like Kaleb Johnson was going to last a little bit longer. He did not. So
where are you between Johnson and Judkins this year, or Johnson Henderson, Junkins?
I'm Judkins, Henderson, Johnson.
Okay.
Depending on the format.
So I've been kind of lately on the mindset that Kaleb will be able to usurp somebody like Quinshon Judkins, especially on volume in a format like this. You got too much clatter with Dylan Sampson, even Jerome Ford being there. I don't see Jalen Warren fending off Kaleb Johnson. I think Kaleb Johnson, especially paired, it's funny enough, Aaron Rodgers, I think he can have some one-itis with Aaron Rodgers where there's a dump-off reception game that opens up for Kaleb. Then, of course, he's just a main back there. So I really actually like it for that tempo of offense. So I was curious what you guys might think about Kaleb just for 2025 alone.
I love Kaleb Johnson, and every opportunity I've had to draft him, I've done it. I got him in the Scott Fishbowl. I'm not scared of Arthur Smith's offense. I'm not scared of Jalen Warren. I think he gets goal line carries. I think he's going to have a big rookie season.
And then we see a quarterback run. 5 quarterbacks going in a row.
I don't.
What? Yeah, keep going, Mike.
I'm not 100% sure the volume is going to be there for Kaleb Johnson right away. I think that, we're banking on, Jalen Warren just being obsolete when, he's a great pass protector. He's good in the receiving game. He knows the playbook, and we know what Mike Tomlin will do. He tends to let these guys sit a little bit. And I'm on the train here that maybe it's going to take Kaleb Johnson some time to get that number one role in that offense. And it could be a while before that happens, halfway through the season, where they're battling for that role. So that volume that we're projecting here may not be there right away. And it's just my take on the situation.
I think that you're dealing with 2 different types of running back. And if we look at what the Steelers have done over the last 4 years with Najee Harris, he had 250 plus carries and 1,000 yards every single year. He's not there anymore. I think Kaleb slides right into that role, and Jalen Warren reverts back to what he was doing with Najee Harris on the field. So I think Warren's going to get his touches, but his role isn't going to change very much. But Kaleb Johnson slides into the void left by Najee leaving. And that was Arthur Smith proof last year. He didn't affect it at all.
Now, what did you guys think of this QB run where we had Mayfield, Stroud, Purdy, Penix, and Lawrence, 5 in a row? And then a couple picks later, Love and Ward. Is that panic?
Well, I pretty much started it off with going with McCarthy. And if I had to do it all over again, I might have taken Adams there. I don't think it was panic. I think that's where the quarterback value is.
So what pocket of position do you think is going to hit right now that the QB run has happened?
I don't know. I think we really need. Whoa, we lost our friend
and our board
and our board. That's less than ideal. Can we pause the draft? We cannot.
No, because he's in control.
Yeah.
Can one of you present the?
I can try.
I think I can.
Hey, the weather's gone bad. While the screen, we're getting it back up. That's what she said. I went at the turn. I went with Cortland Sutton and Josh Downs. I saw the pocket as I was asking you guys about the quarterback run. What's going to be the next position?
My first thought was wide receiver.
There you go. So I was running back heavy to begin, and I don't see this pocket of running backs being very appealing. So I've actually I stacked and went Sutton with Bo Nix. I do have just one quarterback, so I will have to get a little nasty late. And then since bigz wouldn't trade me Josh Downs earlier in the week in our Dynasty League, I felt the need to go and select Josh Downs.
Okay.
For those who don't know, bigz and I in the Grindberg Invitational, I sent him Downs, and for what was it, a second and Malik Washington. You made a good point. I don't know. I don't feel like a first qualifies for downs, but a second was kind of high enough, but at the same time, maybe not enough as well, to your point.
Yeah, and I believe the my comment in the decline was, you're trading me futures for somebody who is right now a points getter in my lineup, and that's just not, like, I'm not ready to kick points down the road. So it was a very equitable trade. It just wasn't something that would help me the way it'll help me in the future, but also hurt me in the present, and I wasn't into that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the futures, when you mention that, the futures don't really add up to what's going on in the present, and you have to have a little bit more of a player for player in that situation. But hopefully somebody else I can acquire some Josh Downs on, because I have him in the league and I'd like to get a little bit more of him. In the meantime, if I'm so sad, I can go on some best ball hunting. As we are at the turn, that person went at the 8-9 turn. They went Jalen Waddle, Dalton Kincaid. Where are you all at on Dalton Kincaid this year? And in the 2-point receptions for tight ends, is that a steal with Dalton Kincaid there?
Dude, this is one of the hardest reads in the game, I feel like, right now. We've seen the injury stuff. There's been people who are concerned about the rehab there. But, like, I think the bounce back is entirely there, as you could see him ending up second on the team in targets. And if that's the case, hey, he's probably going to be a smash in round 9.
I don't have any confidence in Kincaid.
It's a hard one to peg because of so many variables in that offense, right? Coach, you were on this show last week talking highly of a guy named Elijah Moore. And if you think of, when Pat Fitzmaurice was on this show about a month ago talking up Keon Coleman, and then, Khalil Shakir is there, as, many people see him as the top target getter in that offense. So you got to factor in Kincaid. People have him as some sort of breakout at this stage. So, I'm not so sold on that. I mean, he should have been at that stage maybe last year when that opportunity was a little bit more present. And I think that them doing some things here, it's just something that I'm monitoring. I'm not super high on him. I'm not going to go out and, make a huge stab on him. If he fades in the ADP, he's a guy I'll look at. If I'm going, pitching the tight end position, but I'm not a guy that's super high on Kincaid. I got bit a little bit last year on him.
Well, it might be the perfect price point for him in his third year. Hasn't done a lot. Just because he hasn't been Travis Kelce, I think that has hurt a lot of people. We like this copycat league. You got Josh Allen. You thought the Bills were just going to set that up, and we got burned on that. So I kind of think that the price point has dipped enough on Kincaid that there's going to be more liquidity in the dynasty market. But funny enough, at this stage of the draft, it's just very interesting. Right around that round 9, I think it could really pay off big time. And speaking of tight ends, who I think are going to pay off big time, I am going to select David Njoku. He's getting a lot of hype. It's not just me who's talking him up. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But people seem to be on the David Njoku train. Do any of you find yourself getting him in best ball, in dynasty leagues? Where are you all at? I'll start with bigz.
In my home league, he is my tight end 2 behind Brock Bowers. And maybe it's a 2A, 2B I have Jonnu Smith, Brock Bowers, and David Njoku. So I like David Njoku. I know what he does on a points per game basis. He just needs to stay healthy for 17 games.
And that's exactly it. He has the target pace that would match Brock Bowers from last year, 8.8 targets a game, only played 11 games, and that would put him on that pace. Schultzy, how about you?
Yeah, I'm in on him, man. You mentioned the targets. Like, that's going to be the biggest deal here. He's going to get over 100 again if he's healthy. He could push 130, 40 maybe, and he's going to score touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm on board.
And Philadelphia pointed out in the chat and the draft room chat, the auto drafter is taking all the tight ends. He went Andrews, Kelce, Ingram, Jonnu, Kyle Pitts.
Well, that's certainly a strategy, right? Especially with getting the 2 points, but they are up a creek because Jonathan Taylor is their only running back. Fellas, how many running backs do we think we should have through 10 rounds? And this isn't necessarily a right or wrong. What do you think is a fair amount to make sure to aim for to have?
More than 2.
I would say I just took my second in round 10, and that's a problem. Like I'm definitely going to change my strategy up here to focus on running back a little more, because I just took Cam Scatabo as my second running back, and that ain't a thing,
about
man.
him too. I was looking at him.
Yeah,
so
I'm not super happy about him as RB2. I'll say that.
How about Najee Harris and Jordan Mason? That's a good combo.
Hey, I like what you did, Grindberg. A little backhanded compliment for yourself. I love that Jordan Mason pick. And looking at how I went dart, actually Mason he's a sneaky volume monster. So I really like what you did there, bigz, going and getting Jordan Mason. And then the guy after you went and got the Steelers number 2 running back, of course.
So
funny
this
enough,
this was one of the points that I was trying to make when before we started the draft. Grindberg took Jordan Mason, who's not the starting quarterback. We are in the filling your 11 slots with points getters, and there's no guarantee that Jordan Mason is going to play the full slate. So at this point, on this back end, we want to be getting guys. So I went with Mason Taylor, who is going to be the main target getter at tight end with the Jets, and Pat Freiermuth, who doesn't have any competition in Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily like them, but in the 10th and 11th rounds, I know that they are still going to be starters on the field. We had Brandon Ayuk go in the 10th round, exactly what I was talking about. He's not starting until at least week 8.
Good.
So you just gave up, you just passed on a whole lot of guys who are starting, and they're going to be consistently on the field for a guy who you're hoping will help you in the playoffs if you make it.
I was saying that's 2/3 of your regular season you're missing out on.
Right.
Yep. And that was going to be my next question. And I'm glad you hit that up, because you had made that point about Brandon Ayuk. And then the very next pick right after him, the person went, or the pick prior, they went Calvin Ridley. 2 picks later, they went Stephon Diggs. Where are we at on Stephon Diggs? Will he be a point getter?
Yes.
Yes. I think so.
Yeah. I mean, if he can be healthy, I think he's, he's going to leave off where he left off last year. I think he had
right. Coming off of the ACL, and like, there's not much receiving competition there, and you're probably going to have a team who's going to have to throw the ball a lot. So at 11th round, he's going to be a point getter.
Well, that's good, because you want to make sure you get some points. And the next 2 picks were Pat Freiermuth, Zach Charbonnet. We like Zach Charbonnet for that arbitrage to Ken Walker, but just before him went Pat Freiermuth. Where are you all at on Jonnu Smith? Was rumored to be traded to the Steelers. It has not happened. I kind of think that the contract is out there for Jonnu Smith, and that's what's going back and forth between the Dolphins and this hypothetical trade. Meantime, you get a great value in Pat Freiermuth. So, bigz, what's your thinking on Pat Freiermuth? Are you bullish on him in 2025? How do you like him at this point in round 11 for Scott Fishbowl?
So I see him at right around 85 targets, which isn't the best, but he did finish in the top 10 as a tight end last year in Arthur Smith's offense. I'm not huge on him, but at the spot that I got him, I'm pretty okay with it.
Dude, he's one of those, like, he's going to carry some teams in a way that, like, he's never going to explode, but he's also not really going to burn you. And when you get to these points in drafts, like, sometimes getting that guy is very valuable.
All right, now we're getting into some, some dart throws at this stage, and we're looking at some high upside plays, guys that you could maybe put in your lineup and hope for the best. Who is a guy there? I'm going to go with you, Coach, and then maybe I'll go along the panel here and see like a must-have guy, late round dart throw guy that you think could emerge here in the Fishbowl based off of the scoring. And I'll start with you there, Coach.
So if we want volume is king and we want running backs, and this is somebody who's in my queue, so if you snipe them, you got them. It's good. Although I do see you have Sanders and Rashad White. Actually, you've gone 4 running backs in a row. I actually like J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is very good arbitrage play against R.J. Harvey in these best ball contests because he would be a tournament winner, a league winner, in the event that R.J. Harvey were to get hurt. We don't like to think of the fresh, young, healthier running backs as getting hurt, but it's absolutely a possibility. As I click on some J.K. Dobbins, I really think that he could end up being a league winner. Talk about the volume that's there, 0.5 yards per carry. This late at this stage in the game, round 13, I'm happy to click on some J.K. Dobbins. I really think he could be a player that most people aren't thinking about. 26 and a half years old, another year out from all those injuries, and he's in the nut setup offense. And I actually, to my team's build, I end up getting more Denver exposure. So I've got plenty of Denver exposure. So I'm hoping to hit a home run there.
Mike, if you could push that draft board up a little bit.
I
Get rid of
can't.
that first round. You can't? Oh, no.
It won't do it, Captain.
See
It
what
just won't
happens
do it.
if I do this. Well, no, that's not what I wanted
We'll
to
do a
do.
side view.
That's what I was trying to do. Like that.
There you go. Dun,
Oh, and I
dun,
see Grindberg, you go with Ray Davis. I love that pick. He was on my queue. What would you say, Ray Davis versus James Cook in 2025?
Well, last year they were, more of a 80-20, maybe 75-25 split. And, I saw some good things from Ray Davis headed into the latter half of the season. They started using him more in the red zone. I mean, if you look at James Cook's production, those touchdown rate, I just think it's going to be very tough for him to, duplicate that, considering a lot of those runs were outside of the 5-yard line. So he was, breaking off the odd play there to get in the end zone. And I think that's not going to be repetitive. Josh Allen is the goal line guy there. So, Ray Davis is a good, goal line style first down kind of back type scenario. So I think that he could be the guy that takes on a little bit more role and takes James Cook off the field a bit more. I could see him carving out a 40% role. And if something were to happen to James Cook, there's a lot of upside here in such a high scoring offense with Ray Davis. So I'm willing to take the upside there. And he'd be a guy that I'd be looking at getting later on in the rounds as a guy that could go into a high-powered, high-octane offense and really excel in. And if you look at all the guys that I picked in the latter half here, all my running backs are along those lines. Jalen Wright, bigz outlined him very well on our last show, and the forecast is one of his flag plants coming in here, maybe potentially taking over that Raheem Mostert role. When Mostert was in the lineup there a couple of years ago, he scored, I think it was close to 20 touchdowns. Rashad White, he was a top 10 running back 2 years ago before Bucky emerged, and there's still some upside there. He catches a lot of passes. Miles Sanders, another guy that opportunity here. These are these ambiguous backfields. And if you, not do well in the first half of the draft on running back, these are the guys I'd be looking at targeting as potential guys that could come in and really make a mark in your lineups, like a Jordan Mason or Najee if the main guy goes down.
So a follow-up on what you have, you structure the back half of this is 14 rounds now. There's more draft to be had in the actual Scott Fishbowl draft. How do you feel? I love what you did. Bowers, Laporta, Warren, 3 stud tight ends, and you're getting that 2-point per reception advantage. And then, of course, May, Herbert, love what you got, scaffolding for your quarterback room. I imagine you would get a third quarterback with the remainder of the draft. But question, 3 receivers through 14 rounds, London, Flowers, Ibuka. Do you feel good about that, or would you hope to have one more receiver maybe in that pocket of running backs that you had, or what happened there for you?
Oh, I'm not making a lot of these picks. I'm not picking Justin Herbert. I was kind of just in the middle of something and I was panicking because I couldn't see anything off my board because all the quarterbacks were at the top. And to scroll down. I just picked the best one at that stage. So I'd be looking at a wide receiver in that spot. Like I wouldn't want to, or a running back, essentially. Definitely a running back at that stage, because I don't have anything at that point. And with the way they slid down, there's so many running backs I would have loved to have had instead of Justin Herbert there. And with the value, you get a guy like Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold in the 14th round. I mean, that could easily take up that production from Justin Herbert. So I didn't do well there. I'd have a lot more running back depth and some more solid wide receivers, and I'd be probably potentially punting my quarterback quite a bit later on, just seeing the way this shook out. So this gave me a lot of great information.
I think it did take pressure off quarterback. Looking over at bigz team, bigz, if I see, it looks like you have two running backs in Henderson, in not Bijan Robinson, it's Brian Robinson.
Right.
How do you feel about two running backs through this entire round 14 exercise? Would you hope to have come away with more running backs? Was there a pocket? What went into your decision? Because you went ham at receiver.
Right.
Was there anything happening on the board that got you to say, hey, even though I need running back, I'm going to go in this direction because you don't like the pocket? Is that what happened?
Yes, exactly. And it also brings up a point from something that Mike said about not being when he drafted Herbert, he was trying to find people in the list. I would highly recommend to everybody, if you're going to do a live draft. Now, granted, each live draft has each pick has an 8-hour clock. So it's not like there's a whole lot of pressure, but we are trying to keep it moving and get 10 rounds done in about 4 hours, which isn't, that's not out of the question. People do have plenty of time to make their picks. But because of the way that Sleeper and their draft board is set up, go and make yourself a sheet on paper or on your laptop or whatever that is your draft rankings. Make it on projected points, make it on who you like, separate it into tiers and things like that. So essentially what happened is, coming into the first round, I have a short list of guys that I would be comfortable with taking in the first round. And it's basically Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, and Saquon Barkley. None of those guys were available to me, so I had to pivot. I want to target hog in Malik Neighbors. McCaffrey goes. I'm not comfortable drafting McCaffrey there. I would take McCaffrey in the third round, not the first or second. It comes back around. I'm still looking for target guys. I like Devon Achane, but he's not going to be a 300 touch running back. So in this spot, running back was not an option. So I went with Brian Thomas Jr. Then we come back around. I have to wait 20 picks until they come back around. And when that happens, there goes Jonathan Taylor. There goes Breece Hall, who I want to get in the third round. I was able to this year. And if I had to do it again, I probably would have gone with Josh Jacobs, who went the pick right after me. But I saw Ladd McConkey's name, and I was like, that dude's going to get a ton of targets. So again, it's not necessarily about the points that are awarded to the running backs for their touches. It's about the volume. And when you have big wide receiver target share, I think that can supplement some of the loss that you see in a running back having 250 rushes. That's 125 points as a floor. 250 rushes is 125 points as a floor. That's pretty darn good. So running backs are definitely boosted here, but then you start throwing in the points per reception to offset that, the first down bonuses and things like that. So if you have a 150 target wide receiver, you're going to have added yards, you're going to have added catches and first downs and things like that. So I would have liked to be in a bully running back position, but I don't think you're going to get that out of the 10 spot. I did have more running backs in my real life. I have Najee Harris, I have Quinshon Judkins, and then also with the Brian Robinson pick, I just didn't see Aaron Jones. I would have rather had Aaron Jones there than Brian Robinson. So a lot of it is the 30-second clock in the mock draft. A lot of it is the way that Sleeper is set up. So do your prep, so that you can come away happy. I'm happy with the way that my draft turned out. I just wish that I had focused a little bit more on running back. But then again, when I'm looking in certain rounds, like where am I at? I got Juwan Jennings, and who were the running backs that went after him? Bashal Tootin, who's not even a starter, Tony Pollard, who I would have liked, Tyrone Tracy, who's going to get usurped by Scotabo, and Najee Harris, who I like. But Juwan Jennings is the number one wide receiver in the offense with my quarterback, Brock Purdy, and the easiest schedule in the NFL. So,
cool. Cool.
That
that brings me to stacking, and I was looking over at Schultzy's team, and so you ended up pulling off some stacking there, bigz. Very good for you, and you did it very well there with getting Purdy in the super flex, pushed down a little bit in that pocket value, those 5 quarterback pocket values. Looking over at Schultzy, at your team, you have the 4 receivers in the first 6 rounds. You went Judkins, you spoke to that. You wanted to get him. We talked about Judkins, Henderson, Kaleb. You come away with Jaden Daniels early, and you gapped quarterback. It was neat. You gapped quarterback all the way to the 7-5, Trevor Lawrence. He's that perfect guy in Dynasty that we see. But you stacked Trevor Lawrence with Travis Hunter. Were you intentional in that instance because there was a QB run and it went Lawrence? Was Lawrence your guy with Penix, Purdy, Stroud, Mayfield? Were you hoping that it stacked, and did it work out that way for you?
I'd probably prefer out of those guys, Purdy and Mayfield, and I would put Lawrence right behind them. I mean, I'm happy to pull the stack off. I'm looking for a lot of boosted numbers for Lawrence this year in the Liam Cohen offense. I mean, he's played with Urban Meyer. He played in an archaic Doug Peterson offense that didn't evolve ever. This is the first time in his career he's going to have an offense that's going to give him easy buttons rather than making him do all the work. And he's got 2 bona fide receivers to just slip him the ball and let them go do their thing. And I don't think that's being talked about enough. Like when you looked at the Buccaneers offense, they were among league leaders in screens. And
how do you all feel about Travis Hunter? Is there any argument that he could be the 101, or is he properly priced now, being a first-round pick versus his 4th-round ADP on Underdog?
Hey, bigz, why don't you hit up the Travis Hunter take here, because you kind of encouraged me to go out on a limb here. I'd like to hear that point, and then take it home with the end of the show here for us. So talk about the Travis Hunter and then take us home.
Sure thing. Yeah, I think the potential is there. It's just that it's kind of an enigma what Jacksonville's usage is going to be with him. But if he is as good as he is advertised, he will be playing at least 60% of defensive snaps and at least 60% of offensive snaps. So this is something that I was trying to tell Grindberg before. Say, for example, Travis Hunter only gets 5 targets per game. That doesn't seem unreasonable. 5 targets per game. That's 85 targets. He's in the 200 PPR points range, around wide receiver 27. That's without any defense added to it. Okay. Now you add tackles, 2 per tackle. So if you think some of the cornerbacks who were on the field for the most were averaging between 3 and 5 tackles, you add another point. That's 2 points per tackle. And then you add another point for an assisted tackle. So total tackles are worth 3 points. If he can knock out 5 of those, he's in double digits just on tackles alone. 1 point per pass defended. Average cornerbacks 2 to 5 passes defended in the game, depending on how they're being targeted. If they're really bad, their passes defended goes up. If they're lockdown corners that their receiver doesn't get thrown to very much, their passes defended go down. So that's something to watch for with Travis Hunter. And then you throw in random 6 points for an interception. Say he has a pick 6. That's a 12-point score right there. You add all of that to just a base of 5 targets and 4 tackles, and all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who's like scoring in the 600 points range for the season. So if he comes into his own later in the season, he could be really cooking for you when you're trying to get that 16th win to get into the playoffs. And then what happens later in the season when you're in the playoffs, and he's absolutely dialed in on both sides of the ball. I think Travis Hunter could come out of this. That there is definitely a path for him to come out of this as the highest scoring player in the whole tournament.
Love that take, bigz. And that's aggression, right? So these are the kind of shots you need to take if you are wanting to win this Fishbowl. And he broke it down well there. And even if you cut those defensive points in half, because he's probably not going to play full slate of reps on defense, so that still adds quite a bit of points, and that's a pretty elite prospect asset when you talk about the Fishbowl scoring. Bigz, take us home. Tell us everything that's going on in FSAN and the Undroppables, and do it so well.
Well, it is the summer of fish. We are fully engrossed in the Scott Fishbowl 15 season. I just dropped a live mock draft yesterday on the Undroppables on my Unhinged show, so you can go back and watch that. Fantasy Sports Advice Network, we're really cooking. The website is upgraded. We've got lots of really, really cool merch. Go ahead and watch the Dynasty Pulse. Go ahead and get yourself into the Fantasy Forecast, our redraft show. Go get yourself some merch. Join as a pro member and get qualified qualified, I guess, for our jersey leagues. We'll be popping those off right around August and give you some really cool autographed jerseys to play for. Just a ton of things. We're on the radio, you guys, talking West Tennessee 101.5 FM. And, it's the dream. It's the dream, being on the radio, talking sports, and you're going to find it here. So good luck to you all in the Fishbowl. Good luck to you guys this weekend in your Charlotte draft. That's going to be an absolute blast. Can't wait to see what you guys are posting on Twitter and stuff. And hey, maybe take a camera, do some live streaming, that kind of thing. I did that. That's also on the Undroppables from last weekend. And I think we set that up on FSAN too. I think it was on both channels while we were drafting and running auctions and stuff. So yeah, it's a great time to be in the fantasy space, you guys. Love it.
Love it. All right, from all of us on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network and the Undroppables, what a great show. What a great time. Hope you win, folks.
We hope you win.